All right, so we're joined by the Department of Revenue Network Systems Manager, Derrick Everett. We are recording this for all of our computer science engineering students in Madison County Schools, Germantown High School, Germantown Middle School, Old Town Middle School, Ridgeland High School, Shirley Simmons Middle School, Madison Central, and I've got a room full here with me also at Velma Jackson. So we have been talking about different computer skills, computer literacy, and all the technology jobs that are available and that are growing, and the computer skills that they're going to need leaving high school and whatever path they choose when they leave. But before we get into what all you do at Department of Revenue, graduate of Lanier High School and Alcorn State University. So we've been talking also a lot about college choices. So tell us a little bit about your high school experience in Jackson and then going to Alcorn State.
First of all, good afternoon to all the young women and young men of Madison County Schools. Like Greg or Mr. Pike has said, I am a lifelong resident of Jackson, Mississippi. I went to Lanier High School, 833. And from there, I graduated in 1998, and I matriculated on to Alcorn State University, where I majored in industrial technology, specializing in computer networking. Graduated in 03, and I started my career, a very brief stint at Baptist Hospital from there in 2003. And from there, I started my career with the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's another perfect example of these technology jobs, these network IT jobs. They're in every industry, whether like you were yourself in a hospital, you've also worked in a retail company. Now you're with the state. You are not a finance person. You know, when people are paying their taxes, they are not talking to you about tax codes. But in order for that company to stay afloat, they need professionals like you with your skills. So talk a little bit about, because you manage a several $billion server that has to stay going due to database management, security issues, all kind of stuff.
Sure. Yes, we have an infrastructure here at the Department of Revenue, and the latest numbers is $10 billion in tax revenue, and we received that this past year, and we are under the legislature. We are mandated to keep these systems up in the event that they do go down for approximately 24 hours. The governor will have to issue a state of emergency. With that being said, we don't take our job lightly, because obviously taxes have got to be paid. So, it's a fun career. I encourage anyone that is looking to get into information technology to do so. But it's a plethora of fields within information technology that you can go into. You have security, you have application development. Within application development, you have database administrators. Then you have the infrastructure side, which is primarily my focus. On that side, you have desktops, laptops, you have servers, you have the applications that reside on those servers, you have SANs, storage area networks, that's your storage. So it's a plethora of fields you can go into within information technology. And then, it's just about finding your niche, right? I knew very early on that I did not want to be an application developer because I'm more of a people's person. So I like to interact with people a little bit more. The infrastructure side afforded me the opportunity to be able to interact with people a little bit more. I have to interact with the developers, but developers have a tendency to just stay at their desk all day and just look at code and do programming. So, and that wasn't me. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a cool part about your job is, yeah, you do a little bit of that software side, but you spend a lot of time on the hardware side. You know the parts of the computers, you know the wirings and how things are put together, because that's just as important as the software. And you have to stay up on how that's changed, because we're not dating ourselves too much, but when we're about the same age, when we came out of high school, computers have changed probably 20 times in that time. So you really have to stay on top of knowing how they're built and the programs within the programs within the machines. I can't talk.
Right. And IT over the course of the years, although it's infrastructure, but application is the brains of it, right? I can remember when I first started my career, you had these big rooms with servers and computers all around them. But now data centers, and they're called data centers. Well, now data centers, I can tell you now that we have well over, I don't know, maybe 200, maybe 250 servers. But those are not physical servers. All those 250 servers reside on about maybe 30 servers, and that application is called VMware. So it's more application driven than it is more infrastructure driven. So it has been fun to see how things have transformed over the years in my what is this 2022, in my 19 years of working in the IT industry.
Yeah, and you said yourself that when you graduated with your degree from Alcorn State, that you pretty much don't use anything that you got from that degree, even though you're grateful for your time at Alcorn and it's a great school. And obviously, we're not advocating anybody not going to college, but this is a field. If you did not want to go to a traditional college route, you could get into and make really good money. Whether you wanted to go to the military and get training in their and their top of the line technology, and you said you were hiring people out of Holmes Community College that have certifications on the latest technology to work on your team, 19, 20 years old.
Right. IT field is one of those unique fields that it doesn't necessarily require you to have a college degree or have a 4-year college degree, but I'm definitely encouraging you all to do some type of education outside of high school after graduation. But with that being said, yes, I mean, I think it's just more lines on the experience factor than anything. At one point in the IT field, people were big on certifications. Well, those certifications don't necessarily mean anything because all you did was read a book and took a test, right? It's no real world scenarios that you're faced on that test, and there's no way that a certification can simulate the real world of a switch going down and you don't know why it's going down and things of that nature. So you experience is very important in the IT field.
Yeah, and also like we mentioned, every industry, no matter whether it's McDonald's, whether it's Hampton Inn, whether it's Department of Revenue, whether it's Delta Airlines, has to have these professionals. So what are some areas that you've seen is really needed as far as the skills that people need to learn and the jobs that need to be filled?
Nowadays, with all of the hacking and the things that are going on from that perspective, we need more security professionals. Security is big in the IT field because basically that's the foundation of a IT department, right? You got to build a good foundation when you're building the house. So the foundation of a good and successful IT department is the security measures that have been set forth prior to you building your infrastructure on top of that. And then security is always ongoing, right? It's a lot of times people think about hackers, but it's more so social engineering. And that's when the people inside of your organization are the ones that click on a malicious link and then spread a virus over the network. So, security is always ongoing, and you definitely need more security professionals that are in the IT field.
Yeah, and another thing, and I was talking about this with them the other day, is obviously they're all watching you on a MacBook right now, so they all know the iOS, they know the Apple systems. But I really encourage them to use the Windows and other operating systems. So how important is it to know these multiple operating systems, whether they go into an IT field or not?
Real important. Myself, I have a Mac. I have two Macs, MacBook Air and a iMac personal. But it's important because you never know where, what I'm saying, you might go, or what this company uses for their desktops versus this company uses for their desktops. At my previous company, I was using a Mac. Then when I came to the state, I went back to Windows. So, having the knowledge of multiple OS is very important. And as you, not even in the IT field, even if you don't work, if you go into finance or a doctor or whatever, it's important to know those multiple OSs, because that's what that particular company might use as a standard.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, and finance is a great example, because in banking, obviously the IT people are going to use a certain type of operating system or software, but everybody's got to be skilled in that. Even if you are even if you're a lender, you've got to be you're using the same system,
Right.
because you're going to go to the IT people about, hey, this isn't working. You're going to have to be able to at least be somewhat familiar with any type of software that company chooses to buy, especially in large corporations. They're going to go to the lowest bidder. So they're going to,
Right.
they may change software systems. My dad's in healthcare. He said they've changed software systems 10 times in 30 years. So it's something that you really, really need to always stay well versed in.
Right.
Now, before I get to some of the students' questions, one thing I love always talking about is your HBCU experience. Now, obviously, we are encouraging students to make the best choice for them whenever they go to college. But Alcorn offers an interesting environment that's different than the other state universities. And I think it's important also to understand that historically Black college does not mean exclusively Black college, because there's a very large international population, a more and more diverse population growing by the day at Alcorn. So tell us a little bit about your personal experience going to an HBCU at Alcorn State.
It wasn't necessarily as much as it being unique, but if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it the same way. Going to an HBCU, historically Black college, it's a different experience. With that being said, like you mentioned, when I was in college, we had a lot of students that were from Russia. I mean, so yeah, in light of what's going on, right? but yeah, so it's not exclusively for Blacks or minorities, but it's definitely an experience that I loved. I enjoyed every minute, every second, every hour of it. I wouldn't change anything about my decision of going to HBCU, because I actually got selected or got accepted to go to Southern Miss, and I changed at the last minute and said that I wanted to go to an HBCU, and quite frankly, it was one of the best decisions that I could have ever made in my life, and I met my wife there. So
that's awesome. And again, I know you didn't go to Southern Miss. They also have a great computer science program as well. For anybody wanting to go into that computer program, Alcorn and Southern Miss are really two hidden gems as far as computer majors. But I do got some questions from the students, and this first one is Destiny Smith. She's a sophomore, and she asked, "What do you do to keep up with the always changing technology?"
I have a great team of people that I work with, and each one of those individuals, they are a subject matter expert in the different areas within within IT period. But just because I'm the network service infrastructure manager, but I got things, I got it separated out into certain duties. So each individual that guys work with me, they are a subject matter expert in a certain area. Like I mentioned, storage. We got a guy that's over our storage, a guy that's over the servers. We got a guy that's over the network. Then I mentioned security. We got our security products that we have. I have a guy that's over that particular product as well. So, those guys, they are responsible for keeping up with the latest and greatest trends and keeping up with patching and securing our network.
Yeah, and because obviously, when you're dealing with $10 billion, security threats are going to be there every day. You
Right.
might Mississippi would be a hot target, but anytime $10 billion is $10 billion. I don't care where it is. So companies will pay good money to make sure their assets are protected. Now, this is Nakasha James. She's a senior, and I meant to ask this myself because one thing that I see with these students is if they don't get it right the first time, like, oh, this is too hard, I quit. And obviously in IT and most engineering fields, it doesn't happen. And it's very rarely, if ever, right the first time. But she asked, how do you get through an obstacle that you face at work?
Research, right? And then always testing. The key to IT is testing, 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 testing. Measure twice, cut once, right? That's the old saying. Never put anything into production without testing and making sure that you don't affect the end users, which are your customers, right? Yeah. So you make sure that you have a good testing environment. Speaking of that, we have 3 environments. We have a testing environment, we have a staging environment, and we have a production environment. Wow. So we put things in test to test it and make sure that it'll work. And then we put it in our staging environment. That's a direct replica of the production environment. So we want to see how this particular change will react dealing with production data. And so if it passes the testing and then passes the testing staging, then it's safe for us to move it into production.
Awesome. This is Layla Young, our Miss Velma Jackson. She's a senior, and she asked, okay, do you think you chose the best career that fits your skill set?
Absolutely. I chose the best career. I knew I wanted to be in the information technology field in high school. I did not have any reservations about it. I knew what I was going to major in. I majored in it from my freshman year at Alcorn all the way through. And now I'm 7 years from retirement.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's one of the perks of being a state employee. We don't make the most money, but we get to retire before everybody else. So anybody thinking about a state job, it's not a bad deal.
Well, it's a question that you have to answer for yourself. Do you want your money now or later?
I agree.
If you want your money now, don't work for the state. If you want your money later, work for the state.
Yeah, I agree. They got to figure out what works best for them. This is a great question here. This is Brian McMurtry. He's a senior, and he asked, did something in your childhood influence your career choice?
It's a great question. Reflecting back on my childhood, I don't know if it was anything other than when I first got to high school as a freshman at Lanier High School that I had the opportunity to work to do some work on a Mac, which, you know what I'm saying, I don't even know. That was many, many years ago. So they've obviously changed the way they look now. But I think then working on my first computer in high school, I guess encouraged me to go into the IT field.
Yeah, and it's amazing how something that small can really just turn you on immediately and become big time into it. This is Zalia Chesser. She's a junior, and she asked, do you feel there are any negative issues in the IT field right now?
Negative issues in the IT field. I don't necessarily think there are any negative issues other than the issues that come up that you have to be reactive on. I think if you think about being reactive, or if you have a reactive mindset in the IT, that's where it can become a negative impact on you, right? You know, it's important, and this is some of the things that I'm focusing on with my team is having a more operational mindset, right? You know, let's try to go and be proactive on finding out issues that might come up or show themselves later on down the road, so we can try to get ahead of them so it won't affect our end user community.
Yeah, and you talk about your end user, you know, that's several state services because so many things in the government depend on that money being there and being secure. So all the services that we depend on every day that the state provides, that server is what you guys maintain. I mean, for people who aren't familiar with the Department of Revenue, that is a big job and a big deal because that's the way we get our state services is through that money.
Correct. The 98% of the general fund, we are responsible for that. The Department of Revenue is responsible for that. 98% of the general fund. So the budgets that you guys have basically come from the Department of Revenue. And I don't know if I think we have a huge surplus. The rainy day fund is real well. That's why I think we all should be getting raises.
Yeah. Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah.
And I just got one more from the students. This is Jasmine Williamson. She's a junior, sophomore. I'm sorry, I forget. She's been in my class 2 years, and I forget what grade she's in. What is the hardest part about your job?
The hardest part about my job is trying to make sure that we keep the wheels rolling, right? You know, trying to make sure that we staying proactive. That's a real important key factor in being in my role that I'm in. Trying to make sure that we're staying proactive and trying to get ahead of issues. We're not going to be able to head off all of the issues, but if we can head off the majority of them, then we look good as an agency, and then quite frankly, my team look good as a team.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like you said, you know, I asked you one time, what happens if that server goes down? And you said it can't go down. So it is a very tall task, but one that requires, you know, great teamwork and great technology skills and great training. And now we're almost out of time, and we thank you as always for making time for us.
Okay.
But before we go, you know, and I always ask you this, you know, you grew up in Jackson, West Jackson, right here in the same area, Lanier High School. Not, and you're a Madison County Schools parent now, but you see all these resources that these young people have that I didn't have, you, and you definitely didn't have in Jackson. But you still went to a great university and got a great career and doing some great work there, the Department of Revenue. So you faced some serious obstacles that most of the kids that are watching now, watching later, are not going to face, but yet you became extremely successful in doing so. So what can they do now to prepare for that, to become as successful as someone like you?
Appreciate that, Mr. Pikett. But I think I had a great and supportive cast, right? Grandmother, my parents. It wasn't an option to fail, right? And I think that's where we got to have that mindset where we don't have an option to fail. You know, it's bigger things to life than that little silo area that we are in, and try to start thinking outside the box and trying to will yourself to want to be able to learn. You know, I don't just read about IT things. I read about numerous of things, trying to educate myself that's going to benefit me in life in general and make me become a better man, so you guys can become a better young woman or a better young man in life. You know, just don't get caught up in trying to be a product of the environment that you grow up in. You know, that I use that rule of thumb all the time. I never was a product in the environment that I grew up in. You know, all the negativity that surrounds you, you don't have to succumb to that. You know what I'm saying? It's bigger and better things outside of the environment that you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's and these IT jobs in the Jackson area are not going away. This is not something you have to move to another part of the country to make a lot of money in.
Right.
So again, Derrick Everett, I know you're really busy. Thanks so much for taking some time for us today. As always, it's a pleasure.
Hey, I always appreciate the opportunity, man. And you know where I'm at. You can give me a call, and I'll be glad to always jump on and talk to your class.
All right. Well, I'll see you soon, my friend.
Thank you. See you soon.
Yeah.